call this meeting to order at 4 o'clock. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First item is public comments. There's no public here, so we took care of that. Correspondence? No correspondence. So the next item is the minutes of the regular meeting, June 7th, 2018. Hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes. Okay. Continuation of discussion of the elderly tax abatement. I thought we might be able to do something with the asset restrictions. And the two sheets that I handed out, plus information I sent during the day, this one, this is that big report. It's like 55 pages long. I didn't want to print that out. But the summary, and it's from 2015, it says that across the state, the asset limits are between 100 and 650,000. I don't think that's true because one town, who was it, had $1 million, Weston.
There were a lot of states in that.
In this report? Okay, okay. And then in here, what I just handed out, it was shorter, it was only 15 pages, but it breaks down the towns that they had information on. And then I added some information based on Ann's schedule. So the Weston information's in there, Naugatuck's in there. There was another town I think I put in. Shelton, 200,000. There was 250. Who's 250? Oxford. No, it can't be Oxford. It has to be something
I don't
else.
know if you can rely on this, ours is completely wrong.
Yeah,
The code is wrong and we don't have a freeze program.
this was 2012.
This was
We never had a
2012.
freeze, but we never had a freeze. Well, the last freeze was back in the early 70s. Well, they ended in the 70s.
Okay.
And that was a state freeze, not a local freeze.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I knew the numbers were
Some of the stuff
shy
is
there.
right,
Because that-
yeah.
So if you go to 2012,
Right.
they made it, and might have been the numbers 45,000, because we were talking about that this morning, that they went out for a few years in a row. So at that point, but the only purpose of this was really to look at it from the point of view of the asset restrictions. That's all. Yeah. So there are towns out there that, they vary. According to this schedule, 100 to 650, but Weston has $1 million. I think that's way too much. But so I just wanted to have some dialogue on that. And,
Where did you find this stuff?
I just Googled Connecticut. I was looking for asset restrictions, and it was one of the first ones that came up, and it said 500,000. Then I couldn't find it in the narrative here, and when I started to go through it, I think Fairfield's the one that has 500,000. Yeah, Fairfield. Yeah. So anyway, any comments on that? I don't know what I gave out, but just on asset restrictions.
Well, I think we lost pretty much the thing that we need to do something, which is what we do and how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
I put this there on that.
No, not at all.
Look at that sheet that Ann brought, which had the town that had all the asset classes listed.
Okay.
And the first, just some overall comments that I made at the end. And then the second page is the
Yeah.
left-hand column is a list of the particular towns. And then my recommendation are not the various classes, and I added some to it that don't cover the ones that the town does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we talked about some of these things in the past, right? John?
Well, we looked at the sheet going forward, and I thought there was important in this, I didn't think there was ones that ought to be included. the two that I had the biggest problem in that regard are any primary residence outside of Bethel or any rental property outside of Bethel. You know, putting a value on that, because it's not part of the tax.
Nope.
And, you know, if it's a town that has a similar, net asset value that we use, you could say yes, but there's ones in other states and ones in other towns that may or may not have the same kind of evaluation that we do for property.
So they wouldn't have the gross and then 70% assessed value, something like that. But if we went to that town's website, could we find information on the values?
So I said to Ann, that kind of slows down the process though, because the person wouldn't be able to do that themselves.
Yeah.
And you have to look at like places like Florida, have county taxes, so then you need to know the county. It would definitely take work on our part to get that information.
You wouldn't be able to time the person came in to tell them whether they were eligible for a limit or not, if they were close.
And we do at time to time not be able to tell them whether they're eligible or not. Sometimes we have to look at a few things over, but I think this would really.
For example, the Torrington thing didn't have Roths or annuities, so I added those, because if you're gonna include the 401K, I think you
Oh,
need
yeah.
to have the Roth and the.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay.
So this list is primarily what you don't think should be included, oh no, all right, I see.
Yeah, I said no to the checking account just because I can throw the money out someplace and bring it back if I'm trying to hide it.
Right.
And you shouldn't really have that much in your checking account that it would tilt the assets. Savings account, I think, would be one that,
Maybe.
yeah, you don't get a statement at the end of the year, but you get your monthly statements, you can get it off there.
Well, just for the checking account, the first year, I mean, people are not gonna know you're gonna ask for the value at the end of the year, so. And then after that, yeah, if they're savvy enough, they're gonna pick up on it and say, okay, I can make a transfer to my kids, or whatever. Then they gotta be careful with 14,000, anything more than 14,000. But you're right, there's probably not a lot, although I've seen accounts, checking accounts that
I
have
wouldn't
a
fall on my
lot of
sword
money
about
in
it,
it.
but I just thought, I wouldn't fall on my sword about it, but I thought, you know, if it's the end of the month, some people will pay their bills, others, you know, oh, that's all for my tax stuff, you know.
Right.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
So you suggesting that as far as the primary residence, let's say if they live in Bethel and the primary residence, you would include that in the values as well?
I'm sorry?
You're suggesting that you would include the primary residence as well in the value, the total value, if we're gonna go by total
Well, we
assets?
talked last time about including primary residence, and I had difficulty with what if the primary residence is outside of Bethel, and what if it's a rental property outside of Bethel, where there may or may not be something in place that gives a fair value.
Well, the primary residence, they
Yeah,
have to
but-
be, it has to be
Yeah,
Bethel.
yeah.
And, you know, for that, I would say you have to use the assessed value, because we're not realtors and we're not into market
That's
analysis,
what's
we're not
suggested here.
assessors, you know.
I would do the same for the out-of-town ones too. I mean,
This suggested including the
Yeah.
assessed value for the primary residence in Bethel, but the questions I had were residents other than primary, either another property or a rental property that are outside of Bethel. You can't point into something that says, you know, this is what your value include.
But as far as I know, every town or city, they have some type of assessment on their property, whether it's in Connecticut or New York, and I don't know how else you could do it. I mean, you're not gonna ask them to get it, so you just take what they have. The only thing is, you're right, there's a big variation, but at least it's something finite that we could ask them to produce if we had to, you know? You know, and I'm assuming you're talking about the assessed valuation of the fair market value, the assessor's valuation of the fair market
Assessor's
value.
valuation as
Yeah,
opposed to-
not the 70%.
Right. Yeah.
And as far as the rental property, usually, at least here in Connecticut, if it's rental property, they take that into consideration when they're doing the assessments. You know, maybe, well, over a two-family house they do.
Bethel, I have no problem, it's the one
Yeah,
that's outside
right.
of Bethel.
But we could easily get the ones that are in Connecticut.
But
by
would-
calling the assessor's office.
Wouldn't we recapture any income from the rental on the income portion if we needed income?
That comes into A.
Yeah. Well, we hope we would
But
capture
that's
it.
the income, that is the value of the property, and that's not on the tax return.
I would agree with the things that you have down here not to include. The motor vehicle, prepaid funeral, cash value of whole life insurance. And the other thing was the check, and I agree, it comes in and out all
Again,
the
they're there
time.
because they were on the touring
Yeah.
form.
John, I'm just curious, and Marty, what's the objection to the cash value of the whole life insurance?
Pardon me?
What's the objection to including the cash value of whole life insurance?
I don't think, I may be wrong, but I don't think you get any statements from your insurance carrier showing the cash
can.
value at the end of the year.
Sometimes they'll send them, it depends
If
though.
there's paid up dividends, they'll send you that at the end of the year too.
Yeah, they're supposed to, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't always, and I would say that, remember that the majority of people that we're talking about wouldn't even begin to.
They don't even have a whole life.
Mhm.
I'll just throw it out there. It probably is it seems to me a really good starting point, the items that are in the recommendation. My sense of it is that cash value of whole life insurance is a relatively well-established, well-known number. You get them in accounts, you do it in your tax planning, your estate planning. It's the folks who are looking to do tax planning in avoidance of tax who are gonna have high-level cash surrender value, right? And so it seems like if the goal is to test the genuine need of an applicant to the program, you may want to think about putting it on the list, because again, I think it's an asset class that is used commonly as a way of getting tax advantaged results. Just something to think about. Again, I think this is a really good list. It's a great start.
Well, I think you're gonna have to be careful though, because you've got down here revocable prepaid funeral contract. More and more of those are now no longer trusts, they're now life insurance policies. And you'll get a statement telling you what income is received for the year. I don't know how they couch it. And I think most people get the prepaid funeral contract, the revocable, because the irrevocable is only $5,400. And that's not enough to bury a cat nowadays. So they're allowed to, under the state regs, for Title 19, they're allowed to get the revocable too.
Yeah, and look, I wasn't commenting on the prepaid
No,
funeral.
I know, I'm just saying, we don't want to get them mixed up, that's all.
Yeah. Well, I think the list is good, but I'm not opposed to adding in the life insurance, because I don't know enough about it, to be honest with you. It's not a game that we've played in my house, so I don't know enough about, that portion, so, I wouldn't be opposed to adding that back in.
Yeah, I think Bob's right. I think most of them that would have that are probably someone who's fairly well off already, I mean, usually a lot of times what people do as they get older too is they'll cash them in. Just take everything and pack it up, I mean.
Yep.
Torrington had individual retirement accounts. I thought that was too vague, because what gets included and not, but I'm not sure I have everything that should be there in terms of accounts, or types of accounts. I can think of 401ks, I can think of Roth, I can think of, regular IRAs, annuities.
Yeah, you don't have listed regular IRAs.
Well,
Well, that's what the individual retirement account
Yeah.
is, that's IRA, that's what it stands for.
I added to what they had. Torrington had individual retirement account, but that's all they had.
Yeah,
I thought we at least needed to be specific as to what other things got in.
right, so you have to have regular IRAs.
Well, that's on there.
Yeah, but you also got in like the 401K, that's in the commercial atmosphere. We have the 457s, there's the 403Bs, there's,
Yeah, that would be all that.
yeah, you would have to include all of those types. I don't know if you
What are
would
those
write
types, though?
401K type accounts, or be specific and add each category.
Well, see, and I think that's what they did with Torrington, rather than list them, they put et cetera. So it really leaves that open, it's not very specific.
Yeah, yeah.
It's, you know, what would be included.
And I'm certainly not an expert at it, but I don't know, this is for assets, right? So with annuities, I don't know if you're gonna get a statement at the end of the year telling you what the value of your annuity is. Because it's income, and a lot of them, you can't break them down. Once they're there, there's a huge penalty to try to get rid of them. So I don't know, maybe we should look at that a little bit more. I'm not saying exclude it, but try, just make sure. I don't think, but I don't think they give, when somebody says to me the value is, that means if I want to take it, I can take that with the value. That's not what happens with most annuities. Once you buy the annuity, you're locked in. If you take it, there's a big penalty, there could be a penalty involved, all right? And it's usually done for income purposes. You know, it's not, but I don't know, I mean,
All right, so that's something really to look into.
but you're right, there's a lot of different retirement vehicles.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of them. I don't think you're ever gonna name them all.
We almost have to.
Et cetera?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
legitimately or not.
Well,
giving
yeah,
Something you didn't ask for.
Yeah, you're right.
gotta get those ones for the town governments too. What are they, Bob?
What?
457?
457B?
Yeah.
You're gonna take health accounts too?
That's a good, yeah.
Oh, health savings.
Health savings accounts.
Yeah.
I'm saying it with a smile on my face, in other words, don't.
Yeah. I don't think you can use long-term care. I was thinking about long-term care policies, but that's just a policy, I mean, you fund it, but you can only receive that money when you have an issue. You know, there's criteria in order to pull it out, so. Yeah.
And are you suggesting that in order that we come up with a total asset amount,
That's what I.
and that you add all, these things are all included in that?
Yeah.
So you could have something that was a substantial amount, but if it, with everything else, it doesn't go over the asset amount, you're still okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, when you look at the dollar amount, just if you do, someone who has a home for, like, I don't know what the average impact on it is, 20 or something?
Yeah, certainly the 217 is not a valid figure anymore, you know,
Right,
that we were using.
right.
I don't know, I don't know how accurate the Danbury News Times information is. It suggests that it's been tracking the last few months that the fair market value or the average sales price in Bethel's been about 317.
So multiply that by 7.
7, and the 217 is not that far off.
But we're not gonna use the assessed value. Yeah, we're gonna use the fair market assessed value.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when you take into consideration that someone may have a house, $350,000 or $400,000, but really not have any other assets, you know, I mean, it's not gonna be long before you're up over $1 million.
So then you're suggesting that the asset limitation value should be somewhere around $1 million?
I think that it's something that Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know, you know, I would think that you have people that fall in both categories, and you have people that have some people that have some very nice homes that are on the program, that literally have no income, because they have a nice house, that's valued,
Because they've had it so long.
because they've had it so long,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I look at my house, I mean, we bought it for 130,000 30 years ago,
Mhm.
it's probably 400,000 now, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And so, you know, when you take that, all right, there's almost 50% of what's coming in, you know? And then if I add in my retirement and, you know, I'd probably be over my
Mhm. Mhm.
or close to that, you know, when you add everything in. I think anything less than $1 million, I mean, I don't know.
But someone like yourself would never qualify for this anyway because of
This is true.
the income, the pension income and all. That's gonna carry over, the social security, you know.
Yeah. But we have, if you have somebody that has a home that's a rental, they have a home and then they have a rental property. Now you've got two properties. So if both of them are $300,000, and that's what your source of income is because you didn't have a pension, because not everybody has a pension or a 401, or, you know, maybe they do have a small 401 because they came into fashion long before they could save, long after they could save the money to get
Mhm.
something substantial for it, have a little bit of a nest egg there. So if you've got two homes and you're at 600,000 and you have 200,000 in your pension, 401, and your wife's got 150, you're almost at $1 million. But the rental is their income.
Mhm. That and social security is the way they live.
So, I mean, I think if you start looking at the lesser numbers, like 500,000, 600,000, if you're going to put homes in the calculation, then you have to look at a bigger number. It's just
Well, from the examples before, though, out of 15 or 16 towns or a little bit more, there's only like 3 or 4 that have asset restrictions.
But do they
And I
include the
mean,
residents?
Well,
Some
Weston's $1 million, including home, minus the mortgage. Torrington, 125, excluding the home. All right, Shelton, 200,000, excluding the home. And Easton, 750,000, excluding the home.
So if we leave the home out, then that puts a different spin on the amount. Because if you have a home, you know, especially in Bethel, I think you're looking at $300,000.
Well, at the risk of being called the villain, I think what I'm trying to get at is, should the people of Bethel be compared to Weston? $1 million in assets? Or even Easton, for that matter, 750,000. I mean, you know, we certainly are much better than we were 30 years ago, but it's nowhere near those categories. And on what Whatchamacallit handed out, what Bob handed out, I was looking on this. The average town, the incomes are like $30,000. We're up to 48, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the vast majority of them in the 30s. So I mean, I don't know who we're trying to help out here. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so then do we want to include the home or not include the home? I think it would be easier not to include the home because, well, people, like we just said, somebody could buy their home a long time ago before the property value was as it is now. And yeah, that is an asset for them, but it's not going to increase their income unless they sold it, and then they would be on the program.
Well, reverse mortgages are getting to be pretty popular now,
Well,
so.
this is true. This is true. We do see some of those.
Well, I've seen through my office what's happened is they're very successful for people who are not in debt already. If you're already in debt and go into a reverse, you're going to be in big trouble a couple of years down the road, and that's what happens.
It's just for folks who are trying to monetize the equity.
That's right.
So, Anna, are you suggesting that it helps helps the program to help the people who we are targeting by excluding from the asset limitation their home, but then perhaps using a lower asset number to get these other liquid assets?
If you exclude the home and put it at, 650 or 500,000 like some of these other towns do, I think that's more in keeping in where that lives.
You would still include the assessed value of a rental property though, right?
I think that you should include a rental property as a secondary aspect of primary home valuation.
Well, it almost goes along with the same theory as you're not including motor vehicles, because it's a necessity. It's a bit of rent. The home is,
They're very hard to track with lease vehicles and stuff like that. They're just hard to know what people have. I think the whole community sometimes is used with more and more vehicles now than ever.
Makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, I would go along with not including the home, but including, the other property. I think if we just go down the list,
So when you look at that then, so if you say, okay, rental property, but then do you also then include other assets like people that have, bought that swamp out in Florida, that's never going to amount to anything because.
well, there's probably no value to that swamp. Right? So it's not gonna really affect the numbers.
Or they can always sell it.
Yeah.
Well, I think though, no matter what, the towns that they're in are going to tax them, and they're going to put a value on them. So if you use that,
Yeah.
So it's rental property, including
Yeah,
land,
Right.
including land, yeah,
even if it's not being rented.
correct. It's other property.
Just unimproved land.
I mean, all the towns go by, pretty much, I think, lot and block numbers, right? I mean, when we had to prove a number on a tax return, we go to the different town halls and look up the lot and block numbers, and we find out the value of the land, find out the value of, whatchamacallit, the building, because you wanted to see what the assessed value of the building was for depreciation purposes, And in a lot of cases, they would skew it so that they put a very small value on land. I mean, that was just the way they would do it.
Right. I don't think there's as many up here as, there's not that many, but I do think that other properties should be included.
So the principal residence would be out.
Well, at some point, we feel like there's some help on the other kinds of, the IRA, the Roth, the other ones that should be included to capture those. So I'm not sure I know all the ones that
Okay.
are out there.
Yeah, I can get the code sections on, the 401K type accounts. But again, it may not be totally all inclusive, but et cetera, kind of adds
It's
to
better
it.
than not having it on, because if it's
Right.
not on there, not gonna give us the value.
Yep.
I would like a little more time to review this report that you gave us with the other towns
Okay.
out there to see, and maybe even, I can't do it for August because we're just so busy right now. I'm sorry about that. It's very difficult to take any time to do anything other than be at the counter and answer the phone. But I would call some of the ones that do have the asset restrictions and see if they have a list that they could provide us, and maybe there's more information on the list if they have them. So,
Okay.
depending on if they're done by the tax collector or if they're done by the assessor's office, I might be able to get some results right now, but I would honestly say I probably wouldn't be able to get any results until mid-August, just because of the time it's collection, but it's all, the assessors are also very busy right now because of adjustments to bills and stuff.
Okay. So just going from the top down, checking account is out, not a problem with that. Savings account will include investments, stocks and bonds. That wouldn't be their invested amount, that would be the fair market value again, correct?
If they held it themselves, that would be the difficulty, because
Yeah, that's true.
they don't have a permanent statement.
Do you ever see some of the people that come in that they're holding in their own name, not street name, but in
Literally,
they got the certificates?
75 stocks, dividend-bearing stocks, that
Really?
they come in with the papers for.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay.
Back when people did.
$2 a year, $6 a year.
Yeah. Well, when MetLife first went,
Oh.
when
MetLife is
MetLife,
the
everybody and their brother got stock.
Oh.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I know people that didn't even know they had it until, a family member dies and they said, geez, we got this thing in the mail, I didn't know Uncle Bill had shares in MetLife. Yeah, he's
And
got
it's the
12
one
of them.
And it's the one thing you have to probate too, right?
Well, they now have a program where if it's under a certain amount, you can do it a lot easier, but it's still a pain, I mean.
Yeah, because-
Nobody understands the forms, and and now they made it worse, because now they also have, when they went to the new company, Bright House Financial,
Yeah.
they split off some other stock from that too, so now you gotta deal with both of them.
Bob and I both have that, and I just said to him, this is such a pain, especially if something happens to someone, because it's such a small amount of money, dividend-wise, that we get, that we should just sell them and get rid of them, so my kids don't have to deal with it.
That's what I did. I had a MetLife policy for a while,
The ones that hold it by themselves typically have the exact same thing for the wife as well,
Yeah.
and it's all these
Oh.
$5, $10.
And their Saturn returns are like this, they're huge,
Mhm.
because there's so much paperwork. In the phone company, and the gas company.
Verizon.
Verizon, yeah, because they were all had AT&T, and Verizon.
Mhm. Okay, CDs, and then we'll check on the code sections for the 401K type accounts.
We value by assessment for the rental and
Yep.
other properties.
Mhm, mhm.
No motor vehicle, no funeral, and
We'll include the cash value.
they
Right.
include the cash value.
Can
So
we?
you only have to do that for whole life? I don't know anything about insurance.
Yeah, most, if it's term, there usually isn't anything. Although they
But
do
They
have.
can sell the term now, right?
Yeah, but you know what they have? They have the universal life, which is a combination of term and whole life. And supposedly the whole life part of the policy helps pay for the premium. But you can't cash it in like a regular whole life policy though.
I think anybody that has those type of policies are probably not gonna be the resident that's coming down to look for,
Yeah.
unless
And like I said, a lot of
they've
times
sheltered everything and they figure, well.
when
we
they,
can go ahead.
when they make it to their 60s or whatever, they just pack them in, they said it's
Yeah.
now, So,
Mhm, mhm.
I don't think we're talking about the ones on TV you can get for $1 a month.
Right. Mhm. Okay. Can we think of any other assets? Well, what about values of, if that's, I was gonna say businesses. if somebody's a shareholder in the business.
Wouldn't that
They're
come
not
up on your
active
tax
anymore than-
return?
Huh?
Wouldn't that show up on your tax return if you made income, though?
Well, if they didn't, let's say they own preferred stock in a family-owned business now.
Well, wouldn't you get that under the stocks?
No.
No.
If you have a small family-owned company, and the father started it, but he gave it to his kids, and let's say he wanted to maintain ownership to a certain extent, voting rights, he might convert his common shares to preferred shares. But again, I think maybe that person would not be the person coming in to look for.
Are there many, to your point, Bob, are there many small business owners who apply?
Oh, I wouldn't know. I mean,
Well, we got some.
John would.
Yeah, we have some business owners.
Because I think that's what you're kind of getting to. Somebody might have an ownership interest that's not,
He's not active in it anymore, but he's still, well, I mean, it could be a situation where he comes down one day a week, or a couple hours in the morning to make the coffee. I've seen that, you know, they wanna stay active, they want something to do.
I'm gonna make coffee, send them to my office. I'll take them down in the morning.
so maybe stocks, shares, LLC interests, those kinds of things?
Yeah, partnerships, yeah, LLCs.
Well, LLCs, you don't get, but you see, you don't get statements for that stuff, though.
No,
That's the
no.
problem, you know, you're not gonna get,
And you might not even know they're a member of
well,
it.
that's what I'm saying, you know, especially LLCs, you're not gonna get, you know, membership interest.
Mhm.
That's why I said I thought if you still had the stock, or if you had a membership interest in an LLC, what should happen is if there's any income that's made, it should be generated and be shown on their tax returns. So you get them on the other end, so to speak.
Mhm.
I think anyway, but
Yeah.
On the income side?
I'm not an accountant, so.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Well, we're not gonna make a decision on this today, it looks like. And maybe not even August, from what you said.
I'm not gonna be able to do any research unless somebody else wants to do the research. I will not be able to until sometime possibly mid-August, when things settle down. The problem with August is every single week of the month, somebody's on vacation in my office. That tightens things up a little bit. Plus I have sewer assessments to do. But I mean, I think I can manage to get some information in August. But not for the August meeting, because the meeting's so close to the beginning of the month, right after, we're done collecting.
Okay.
So to boil it down then, what we're looking to do is establish an asset amount, total
Yeah.
asset amount, which is gonna exclude the house.
Right.
The primary residence. And what about the income side? Are we gonna do anything else with the income side?
Well, the only other thing, and I talked to Bob about this a little bit, and I was just gonna throw it out here, I don't wanna like prolong what we're doing, but, you know, we started this in August, and when we started it, the state was still reimbursing for the homeowners program for the state side, and now they're no longer doing that. And this program here works on the levels that are set by the state. And those levels go up every year based on whatever the social security increase was. So if it's 2%, it goes up. If it doesn't go, social security doesn't go up, it stays the same. And so that those buckets stay the same. My concern now that the state has no longer funding their portion, that there's been a lot of verbal or throughout, I had just talked to Matt about this as well. There's a lot of outcry from towns that the state is now mandating that you fund the state side of the program as well as your own side. It's a mandate. We already know that Shelton is not adhering to the mandate. They're not gonna fund their side. So I'm just thinking for the future, to avoid having to have a committee again, or to have to change the ordinance again, that perhaps we need to put our own language in that allows us to change those buckets without the state. it's just thinking of the future.
And, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, go ahead.
remind me, when did the state stop funding it? Was it for
This year.
2017
They,
or
well,
2018?
to this year here they stopped funding, but we didn't know until
Okay.
the budget passed through up at the state level. And even then, I don't think we knew for a while,
Mhm.
that they were going, I think we found out somewhere in November, the end of October, that they were no longer gonna fund.
And that's a funding based on the state's fiscal year end.
Yeah, yeah.
The
And
chart,
I don't see them going back, all reversing that, and all of a sudden, because obviously we know they're not funding a lot of things, you know, and that's not gonna change. I think we're just gonna see state funding change all the way around. There's a lot that's come down, a lot that people are not even aware of that I don't really discuss. I mean, a lot of the motor vehicle stuff has come down to the towns, and we just pick it up because we're required to. And, you know, it's just one more thing.
for 2017, is the 123,000, is that the right number? Is that the state's portion? Okay, thank you.
So it's really, though, it was a combination. So if you qualified for the state, and let's say you got, I'm just throwing a number out, $1,500 from this, on the state side, and then you had a little bit more, you could qualify for Bethel's too, and Bethel would pick up another $300, so it'd be $1,800. So you're saying we're gonna fund the whole thing now?
We are funding.
We have to.
Yeah, no, I
We have to.
clarify that, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so what we're looking at then is really whether you want to leave the income limits is what you have. Because right now, the max is what, around 48,000?
Yes.
So that's the real issue, right?
Well, it is part of the issue, but if you look at the ordinance,
Yeah, I know.
it says,
Yeah,
It's a limitation on the amount we have in the budget, right?
well,
Is that what you're getting at?
that's not what I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at, we wait. Yeah, so if you look at, the ordinance, F, which tells us how we change the tables,
Yep.
that's what I'm talking about, is if the state stops, well, the state has stopped funding. So they may not change those tables any longer. Those tables are based on Social Security increases. And so when the federal government decides what the Social Security increase is going to be, that's when we get notified from the state what the table's going to be. This year here, I didn't get notified from the state until the end of November, which was way beyond the time we were supposed to approve our tables. I just anticipate that they're gonna, if they're not funding it anymore, they may not even address these tables any longer, because there's an outcry from a number of towns to not make this a mandate. So if that changes, then we're in a position where our program works off of something that we're not gonna get anymore.
What's the top now for the state?
The top is 48,000.
It is 48,000. Okay.
So my thought is that we put some language in here that just says that the table will increase by the cost of Social Security.
Bless you.
And then we'd have to decide whether we want to increase the top one or not. The top one is the town one, and it's not covered by the state program. So what it does is it keeps people in the program, in the same bucket that they were
In the
in
past.
in the past. So, you know, if you get a 2% increase, it's not gonna throw you out of the program, because you got an increase in Social Security.
So we have to do that every year,
We do it every year, yeah.
but we would have to adjust the tables every year too.
We adjust the tables every year based on what the state does. This ordinance reads that we get the information shall match the state of Connecticut tables for their homeowners program. My concern is that the Connecticut homeowners program is gonna disappear completely because it's a mandate. And they already have the ability for you to have the local options, which we already have, that we're funding. So, I don't know, maybe we just leave it as it is and
But
wait
right
till
now,
it
the state
happens.
tables are lower than our tables.
No, they're the same, except for the 48,000.
Well,
Okay.
that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
What's,
Yeah.
so it's not 48,000 with the state, the top
Well,
tier?
The top tier, the 48 is ours. Theirs
That's what I
ends
thought.
at 42.9.
Okay.
All the rest of the buckets are those are the state tables except for the hearing doc. That's the town table.
And I would assume, based on the end of our ordinance, that if we fund what we have here now up to 48,000, we may be over the amount that's allowed under the ordinance.
Well, see, and so
So there'll
that's
be a
another-
rollback for everybody.
So that's another thing to look at. I mean, I'm probably premature. I think if the state just dismantles the program completely and doesn't mandate it any longer, then we need to rewrite this whole thing. You know, maybe I'm premature on it. When I first thought about it, I was thinking, well, maybe we could just write in there that we'll increase the buckets by the social security increase. But maybe that's premature, because if you do that, then then the program is more costly than.
I would wait a couple of years to see what shakes out at the state. It could, you know, I mean,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I just was trying to be
yeah.
proactive.
I mean, if you look at
because-
John's schedule that he had sent right after the last meeting, you sent it to everybody, right?
Oh, you-
But if we were to raise that number, it's gonna start to pick up other people.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause we keep
For 18?
track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys get this thing?
I don't think I have it for 18.
But you can see the ranking of the ones that didn't make the list. If we start to add 2% or whatever the cost of living increase that the social security recipients receive,
Right.
you're gonna start to pick up these people too, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So maybe we just leave that part the way it is, which we can. I just brought it up because we're looking at it now, and I just thought we should think about it. Because
Alright.
it might, now that I'm talking about it, I'm realizing it's probably premature.
well, we can save that for maybe one of the last things that we do, if we have to do it.
We're not gonna know until November,
No.
so, unless it shakes out with the governor's race. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of towns that really are against this now. Not just the guy from Shelton, because towns are having to fund this. It's just one more unfunded mandate, and everybody's kind of tired of the unfunded mandate. I mean, it's fine that it's unfunded, but this is mandated, so now you have to do it. You have to fund it.
And I just want to make sure I'm following kind of the interrelationship between this and the general budgeting. So for fiscal year 18, the year that ended just a few days ago, 6/30, the town had to pick up whatever the annual equivalent was of the 123 in 17.
And the town is separate, distinctly different than this, but the town is also having to take out private rebate. That's
Right.
its already.
John, I'm sorry, why do you say it's separate though, right? When I
Because
think,
it's a different program.
oh, different program, okay.
Yeah.
But the,
These are for homeowners, the renter rebate.
Last year,
One for
they
renters.
ended up funding 50% last year. This year, they're funding none of it.
got it.
But it's a mandate like the,
It's also a mandate, yeah.
And so for fiscal year 8, that's the 18 number, the fiscal year 19,
Next June.
the year that started just a few days ago,
Right.
June 1st, then again, we'll have somewhere in the vicinity of, again, whatever the annual equivalent is, that year's equivalent is of 123,000 less in revenue.
Yeah, that was the first year that they didn't fund it. But Bob took that all in consideration.
It's in the calculation, remember.
Yeah, it's already, been accounted for because he knew that. But, yeah, but a lot of towns are really Bethel's in a better financial stability, I believe, than some other towns. In a lot of towns, this is a very big hardship, from renters as well as the local homeowners the homeowner program. And people, they're just not gonna pay for it, they're just not gonna do it. So I think that you're going to see the statute change to somehow.
And if it doesn't, the net effect of it is, the Bethel program now is benefiting taxpayers to the full extent of the, whatever the number was, 500 and
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
430 something that we were thinking.
But because they're two separate programs right now, we don't have to, the guidelines for the cost of the program can be 0.75% of the prior year's budget. So we're not maxing out, but if we add it to the state, we are.
Then we
maxing
are,
out,
yeah.
right? So that's one factor there.
And if we went over the amount of money maxing out, then we would have to roll it back and just reallocate over.
Yeah, and I would say that the tax bills would definitely be late. Because we can't do the program until the assessor does her portion. I mean, and then have to recalculate everybody and not be able to just drop a mill rate in a spreadsheet it's a lot.
What happens if we're over the limit based on just the state's numbers, not even our own? How are we gonna roll back something that's already been mandated?
Well, right.
I think that's where we might be for fiscal year.
It's gonna be close, I think.
Where it's-
You get another 30 people that apply, that's gonna push you right over the edge, you know? Because I was thinking that maybe, well, like Ann said, we have to wait to see what's gonna happen up there, but I was saying, just go back to the state rates. Drop it back down to the 42.9 and just, you know, see what happens. At least we're on the same par with them, you know, I mean, because right now, we're giving more.
I
So-
think that honestly, Marty, I think that the state program's gonna go away. You
Yeah,
already have the
I
local
think you're
option there, and you're gonna be stuck with whatever program you have in place. But I think that.
Yeah, but they're not telling us we gotta have income up to 48,000.
No, they're not.
Yeah, that's
They're
what I'm
not.
getting at.
And I do think that, you know, when that time comes, maybe this is gonna have to be reviewed again.
You're looking at 33 applicants that received $16,600.
Total?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Well, because
But then again, I
that,
don't sit on the Board of Finance, so.
I think it's because that bucket has not increased in a good number of years. The last time it increased was probably nine or 10 years ago. The 48,000's been pretty consistent.
But if you look at that handout that I presented before, I mean, some of the towns are a lot smaller and lower than us.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Definitely. A lot of towns are lower. Bethel's program is quite generous. For the size of our town and the wealth of the town, Bethel's program, I think, is very generous. I mean, when you're talking about almost, when you put the state and local program together, it's over $500,000 for 281 people. This, if you do the math, it's, the average person is getting a substantial amount of money. You know. I mean, they're all not getting the same, but for 280-something people, you're talking about $500,000. It's a very generous program for the local taxpayer.
Flip side of it is, all the other residents have to pick up that cost.
Yes.
Yeah, for me.
Yes.
So you're looking at almost like a third of a mil.
And then when you include then in the renters program, which I don't know the cost on that, but you have to do that. Do you know the cost
I
then?
think it's like 183.
Yeah, there's another almost $200,000 for the renters rebate. And how many people would qualify for that?
I think numbers I don't have at the tip of my tongue. 125 maybe.
That's a lot of money there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of money. mean, I think that you're gonna see some of these programs that have been mandated by the state change, and I think that we're gonna have to change with them. But it's a little premature. But for now, I think we need to do, the asset restrictions. I think that those are good starts for us.
Do we think that 650 is a good number to start with, to talk about? Not today, but keep that in mind maybe for the next meeting?
Yeah, I would really, really like to be able to look at these lists that other towns have, you know, and see. You can pretty much tell by looking at this, which ones will have a higher threshold. And I think primarily, most of them are in Fairfield County.
Mm-hmm. Well, Weston is the biggest, that's $1 million.
And we don't.
But they include the home, right? They include the home minus.
Less
the
the mortgage.
I mean, so a home in Weston's gonna be more expensive than in Bethel, but they're excluding the mortgage.
Right, which is weird,
So
because people.
it's a hidden
work
tax
as well.
benefit,
Yeah.
hidden local tax benefit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, look at it. The income limit in Westport is 65,000, and then Newtown is 70. Okay. So why don't we review those couple of handouts, do a little more research, and then at the next meeting we can maybe come up with a number, and I'll work on code sections.
I won't be able to do any research until,
No, I know. You
Okay.
said, yeah, August is bad for you.
yeah, up until,
Yeah, so maybe we just
it's just
look
that
towards,
our meeting's so early in August that it makes it difficult for me
mhm.
with the taxes to do everything.
Okay.
But anybody else can feel free to research on their own.
I went to law school, that's why I want to be an accountant. I look at it with the assets though, if you had to liquidate your assets, now we're not including the house, if you had to liquidate them, how much could you take every year? And I mean, I know it's rather simplistic, but I just did $500,000 and it's like $26,000 a year over the next 20 years. So that's how I would look at it, you know, when you're gonna try to figure what that number is. Because isn't that what it really is? It breaks down for
Yeah.
you to support yourself
Right.
and what you can afford and can't afford coming up, so. And I think I did 650 and I think it's 32,000 or something like that. I mean, it may not be a lot of money, but you gotta remember, this is in addition to what their income is,
Right.
which is Social Security and anything
Yeah,
else.
but Marty, if you were gonna liquidate your house. and you had
No,
that
well, I'm not
available
talking
cash,
about
you
the
still got-
house.
Hmm?
I'm not talking about the house.
Oh,
I'm talking about, I said, if you exclude the home,
Right.
and you put an amount of $500,000, 20 years, if you're
Oh,
here
okay, I
for
got
20
you.
years, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, I don't know how else you're gonna compare anything,
mhm.
you know, what you're gonna base it on.
Well, and it's likely going to have a rate of return on it as well, so
Yeah.
it's going to go on a lot longer than 20
Oh,
years.
no, but I'm just saying, if you had to take it all and just, you didn't get anything. But I think you're gonna recapture that with the income, though.
Mhm.
Should anyway.
Okay. All right. Anybody wanna make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? 5 o'clock.